G'day everyone, I'm the Gravetender, and welcome to the other side. I don't know about you, but whenever I watch a monster movie, I like to imagine myself in the role of the monster, destroying cities, hurting innocent people, and battling the elements just to survive. It's fun to imagine yourself taking on the role of a creature with no morals and no voice, simply following its instincts and carving out a path of destruction. It sounds like one hell of a ride, and thanks to Maneater, we can now live out the exact fantasy as a shark in a GTA world. Developed and published by Tripwire Interactive, Maneater is about a reality show run by a skilled shark hunter named Scaly Pete. However, after hunting a pregnant bull shark, Pete lets the baby go so he can hunt it later. Now playing the role of an infant shark, the player is tasked with eating, growing, and evolving so that you can seek revenge on Pete for murdering your mama. While the narrative does occasionally cut back to Pete's perspective as he films his show, for most of your playtime this is very much a standalone experience, with the player's actions and developments all being narrated by Chris Parnell, who you may recognize as Jerry Smith from Rick and Morty. This unseen narrator comments on pretty much everything you do, from eating to discovering landmarks and engaging in combative situations. So by portraying himself as this legitimate documentarian, Chris Parnell is able to add some much needed humor to this game, while also amplifying its darker aspects. However, don't go into this expecting some deep story about shark hunting. You could make a case that this game is trying to comment on the cycle of revenge, but I doubt that's what the developers were going for. Besides, Maneater has a remarkably simple and predictable plotline, which works in its favor, allowing the player to focus more on the gameplay, which for the most part is actually very solid and entertaining. The basic gameplay loop is pretty straightforward. You travel to a new location, reach the grotto, which you can use to upgrade and evolve your shark, after which you swim out and proceed to kill everything and everyone that's been marked as a target on your map. These targets can range from helpless civilians, armed hunters, to ocean-based prey and predators. Some of these targets will require you to traverse on land, however, since you're a shark and they don't breathe above water, you're given a brief window of time to move about on the surface before you start losing health. After you're done with your slaughter, you'll take on a boss, catch up on Pete, move to the next area, rinse and repeat. While it might sound simple, thanks to some well-crafted power escalation, you never feel too powerful or too weak to tackle any possible threat that might come your way. Rather, throughout the game, your shark is constantly stuck in the middle of this divide, with enemies becoming more complex or numerous in number as you grow in strength. All the while, the game gradually feeds you new pieces of gear to upgrade, and abilities which can alter your playstyle. As you level up, your shark will also evolve, starting out as a small and weak pup but eventually transforming into a terrifying mega shark. By this point, enemies which once posed a major threat to you will become as trivial as the most common fish in the ocean. At the end of the game, you'll be powerful enough to hunt down whales, establishing yourself as the apex predator in the ocean. Of course, while the game's progression system is well crafted, the combat is quite flawed. You have a basic bite attack which you can use to grip and twist your enemies. When done right, you can easily kill anything in a matter of seconds. However, due to the game's lock-on targeting system, you can easily miss most of the times you try to bite someone. This wouldn't be that big of an issue if you had a better control of your camera and the character's speed, but half the time you'll be fighting to simply maintain control of your shark as you struggle to fight your much smaller enemies. Thankfully, the game also provides you with plenty of ways to avoid damage. Sidestepping your enemy's attacks is easy, but the window of time can be tricky to get right. Thankfully, you can improve your odds by enhancing yourself with poison damage or lightning, which does enable you to dodge multiple times in quick succession. But even though you're able to jump through the air, increase your movement speed, or simply hide underwater to escape pursuers, you're bound to take a lot of damage whenever you're up against larger predators or the seafaring hunters. Additionally, you can also attack with your tail, which is the shark's version of a heavy attack, but for most of my experience playing the game, I rarely ever use this. Furthermore, whenever I did use it, I found it to be mostly effective whenever I was on an enemy boat. Aside from that though, there's not much else to the combat. After all, there's only so much you can do with a shark as the main character. Aside from the main missions and upgrading your shark, there are a plethora of collectibles throughout the game world, many of which when found will unlock new gear and abilities for your shark to use, so there is a strong incentive to find them, and searching for all these landmarks and other items will help extend your playtime by a few hours since the game's main campaign is quite short. Even though I was deliberately going at a slow pace, it still took me less than 10 hours to finish the game's story. And aside from the collectibles, there's no real replay value aside from going on a rampage. Which is probably for the best. In a game like this, it'd be quite easy to get bored or frustrated with the controls. I know I was starting to by the end. Also, I'm not entirely sure if this is a glitch or a gameplay fault, but whenever you use the fast travel in this, you seem to have a 50% chance of actually arriving at your destination. If that doesn't happen, then the game will permanently stick you on the load screen until you reset the game. This also seems to occur if you're moving quickly between different regions of the open world. Despite this game's graphics being optimized for next gen, it seems that the developers didn't work hard enough on improving the load times while you're in-game. Furthermore, due to how simple the combat mechanics are, it can be very easy to get stuck in an unwinnable situation, since the game expects you to be perfect with each attack. If not, then the human enemies will simply slaughter you, or the ocean-based predators will force you into a corner with no hope for escape. Still, I won't deny that Maneater is a fun romp through a populated beachside city, full of people to eat and fish to devour. If they'd simply expanded upon the combat and refined the lock-on targeting, I'd imagine I'd think of this game more fondly, but as it is right now, I'd say it was an enjoyable experience with some issues here and there. What better way can you describe a beachside vacation? Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. I'm the Gravetender, and thank you for joining me on the other side. I hope you all have a nice day.